Thank you for being here this evening. We'd like to welcome you to the City Council regular meeting on Tuesday, January 21st, 2020. This time, I'd like to call this meeting to order, and we'd ask the Maricopa Police Chaplain, Dr. Paul Ellis, to please come forward, after which we'll be led in the Pledge of Allegiance by Councilmember Marvin Brown. Please rise.
Mr. Mayor, City Council, friends and colleagues, would you bow with me in prayer? Heavenly Father, we are so thankful for so many blessings that you have given us in this city. We thank you for our leadership. We thank you for our citizens. We thank you for the growth. We pray that tonight, as they continue to do business, that you will grant wisdom to each one that are involved here this evening. Be with our first responders and protect them as they serve our great city in their line of duty. I pray your blessing upon them and bless this city and the activities of this evening. We pray this in your name. Amen.
Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. You may be seated. Thank you, Chaplain Ellis. I appreciate it. They'll take us to the roll call, please.
Councilmember Brown?
Here.
Councilwoman Gussie?
Here.
Councilmember Manfredi?
Here.
Councilmember Vitiello?
Here.
Councilmember Wade?
Here.
Vice Mayor Smith?
Here.
Mayor Price?
Here.
Mr. Mayor, we have a quorum.
Great. Well, thank you again. Happy New Year to you all. This is our first meeting in January, as they had the first one canceled due to the new year, but certainly want to get through this meeting. We've got a lot of things on the agenda. First, that takes us to item 3.1, which is a Rotary recognition. So if Rotary, please come forward, and we'll start doing some presentations. Jim.
Thank you. Again, I'm Jim Irving from the Maricopa Rotary, and I again want to thank the Mayor, City Council, and staff for allowing us to come and recognize some of our outstanding young people in our community. Want to start off just to let you know a little bit about what we do each month. Is that all the schools can submit to us their Student of the Month, and it's not just totally based upon academics, it's based upon community involvement, how they work around the school and the city. And at the end of the year, they're eligible to get more full-time scholarships. So we're just really pleased to be able to work with the city and all of you to do this. The first student I'd like to recognize, hope they're here tonight, is Riley Hoffman, is a senior at Maricopa High School with a very high-weighted GPA. She is in honors, geometry, and biology. She serves as a Maricopa High School president of the National Honor Society. Riley also plays the violin for the high school orchestra, is in the varsity girls golf team, and has been a community member for many organizations such as the City of Maricopa, Red Cross, Blood Drive, Homecoming Committee, as well as being very active in her church. It is reported that she has been beyond invaluable to the National Honor Society. Not only has she organized the largest group of NAH members in the existence of the high school campus, she has done it with grace, humor, and a timelessness that is outstanding. Her parents are Brian and Terrell Hoffman. So, Riley, if you're here, come on up. Darn it. Not here. Moving on. The next group of students, really excited about. One of the things we try to do is reach down for our 8th graders. And I'm going to ask their outstanding principal, Thad Miller, come on up and help me with this. They're your kids. Come on. Thad's a principal at Wells Middle School. Not only that, Thad has gone to school, grown up, involved with the school all his life, and his sister Tori is also on our school board. So they're your kids. We're going to do it together. The first one is Ellen Daly, 8th grader from Maricopa Wells, and reported to the Rotary Club that she's a high achieving example of what the staff of Maricopa Wells strives for. She is involved in clubs such as After School Club, member of the orchestra, plays soccer, where she was the key member of the Maricopa Wells Championship girls team this year. She does all of this while maintaining a high achieving grades in all her subjects. She is the daughter of Trevor and Shirley Daly, and her sister got one of our large Rotary scholarships last year, and her other sister is president of our Interact Club. So thank you so much, keeping up the family tradition. We're very proud of you. The next one is Jessica Vaughn, an 8th grader from Maricopa, Wells. She is very high achieving, a student and a member of the orchestra, choir, and after-school club. It is reported that she constantly displays leadership skills in her daily behavior, helping with community affairs, church organizations, and maintain a high GPA. Her parents are Dominic and Rebecca Bum. Thank you so much. Bam. The next person is Francisco Serbian, right? An 8th grader from Maricopa, Wells, is on the decathlon team and after-school club. He is an avid sports player playing on the basketball, baseball, cross-country, and soccer teams. It is reported that he is a high-achieving example of what the staff at Maricopa Wells strives for. He displays leadership skills and everyday behavior, making good decisions, and showing a high agreement of respect for all adults while continually keeping his grades. His mother is Rochelle Servian. The last one is Abigail Kandera, an 8th grader from Maricopa Wells. She is not only a very high-achieving honor student, but is a member of a student council, orchestra, drama, and after-school club. She also participates in community organizations. She is the president of the National Junior Honor Society, which helped organize Toucan food drives and the Penny Wars. Her competition and organized the Maricopa Wells Blood Drive, which will take place on January 24th. Her parents are Joshua and Shalom Gandira. Congratulations. She is such an outstanding math student. I have to tell a story. We have one of our, he's a professor at Arizona State who teaches some of our top kids. And he said, even I sometimes can't figure out problems that you do. So she's going to be a real whiz. Just want to make sure you all go to Maricopa High School next year, right? Yeah. Okay, thank you all very much. Thanks, you guys.
Thank you, Jim, for that presentation, and congratulations to all of our excelling and exceeding students. We are very excited for you, and thank you for all that you're doing. And probably more importantly, thank you to the parents. I know how much work and effort goes into that. That'll take us to item number 4, which is the report from the mayor. At this time, I'd love to pass some of that time along to my colleagues up here on the stand. So, council members, anything you'd like to share at this time? Vice Mayor.
Thank you, Mayor. The first couple of things, talking about the Senior Lunch and Learn. We held our last one this past Friday. It was on veterans and the Historical Society. The veterans portion was completely Councilwoman Gussie's idea, and I was a little worried at first because I thought this was information that the veterans really needed, and we only had 18 people signed up. But by the time the morning started, that room was packed. And Councilwoman Gussie brought a speaker that was just phenomenal and really touched the hearts of many of the people. So it was a huge success. Our next Lunch and Learn will be in February, 3rd Friday of the month, and it's on internet safety, which I understand this speaker is phenomenal. So if you're curious about internet safety, make sure you check that out. I went to the MAG, Maricopa Association of Governments Economic Development Committee, and boy, that was a really interesting conversation on affordable housing. And I wanted to mention a couple other things because there were pieces of information there that was new to me that I hadn't considered, but I think are important to our city of Maricopa since we're looking at the apartment complex that's coming in. And so some of the things that I wanted to share, just so you're aware of the fact that the annual income for those that meet the requirement or the description of affordable housing is $37K to $74. Now, we've been trying to educate the residents on that because of the fact that we know that we need to have housing for teachers. We know that we need to have housing for single firemen, for single police officers, a variety of different people who come into the city seniors who may be wanting to transition. But when you understand that typically you define affordable housing for those that are making 37K to 74K, you realize this is the net group of people that we're trying to meet. And I've heard a lot of residents in speaking with them talk about the fact that, well, they can just live in other cities that have apartments and they can make their way here for their job. Well, some of the information that was shared from a study on affordable housing during this MAG economic development meeting was that has, what we don't realize is that has an impact on the health of those employees because they're now doing a long commute back and forth, has an impact on their health. And then also, think about it, it has an impact on the infrastructure. That was something that I hadn't considered before, the wear and tear on the streets. So a huge impact on different things associated with the infrastructure. But one of the things that hit me, and I found the most interesting, is that based on their study, Arizona is now what they called the third worst in the nation for affordability. And so that scared me a little bit, not necessarily for the city of Maricopa, but they indicated that a lack of affordable housing could set the city of Phoenix off to be the next Los Angeles with a housing problem. And so it's important to understand the huge magnitude of it, and I felt like this study was really interesting and had a lot of good information. I shared it with the city manager, and then they are also doing a study that they invited the city of Maricopa to participate in if we so chose. So very good information. I think good dialogue when talking about what the city is currently doing in regards to their work with the developer and apartment complex. I also attended the strategic planning for Maricopa Unified School District, which Tori Anderson, I see you in the back there. What a phenomenal experience. That was really a very positive, uplifting. I think one of my takeaways there, I sat at a table of principals and teachers. And you know how when you sit at a table of employees, a lot of times you hear disgruntled information? This entire table was so hyped on what their new leadership is doing for them, the idea of the second high school coming, even though that the bond didn't pass. They were really positive in their thinking and their strategic thinking on how they could make that work for the city of Maricopa. A very good session. I was really glad that I attended, Tori, so thank you for the invite. And then I attended, as many did, the county complex groundbreaking, as you're probably aware. Behind Culver's, the county is putting in services for the west side of Pinal County, things like the assessor's office, sheriff's department, substation, all the services that we need and anything regarding our property is going to be offered at this complex when it's finished in about 12 to 14 months, so to speak. But the groundbreaking was very fun. It was really well attended. And then, I wanted to invite you, I have a couple other things, but I know other council members will probably talk about them. The Age-Friendly Info Expo. So if you are a senior and you want to learn about more resources that are offered to the seniors from a variety of resources within the city and surrounding areas that offer services for city seniors, come this Saturday to Copper Sky from 10 to 2. And then February 8th, the Age Friendly group is doing shredding, free shredding at Copper Sky from 10 to 2. So if you have loads and loads of documents, feel free to come and take advantage of that. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. Anyone else? Yes, Councilmember Wade.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate it. And hello, everybody. Happy New Year. I wanted to talk a little bit about this weekend. This weekend, the city of Maricopa was lit up in glow lights and all types of activities taking place over at Copper Sky. It was tremendous. And two of the things that took place was the recognition of Dr. King's birthday. The MLK, Citizens for MLK celebration held their annual gala over at Copper Sky. There was approximately 200 people in attendance, which was really nice. We turned the gym into a nightclub, basically, and it was interesting. Someone made a comment he hadn't seen that happen since he was did the help to get his prom going on. Some of the people that we recognized, was Alice Schultz, Joanne Ortega, Eric Serber, Tanya Thompson, Jamila Pulliam, David Burke, Marvin Brown, and Johnny Elliott. And then on Monday, with celebration of Dr. King's birthday, Community Day out at Copper Sky, a little over 200 people are there to attend, and that's the opportunity for people to bring the kids out and enjoy themselves as well. And we also awarded some students with the Community Heroes Award, and that was Sylvia Majito, Nicholas Sanchez, Ariel Hargrave, Frida Abraham, Giselle Diaz, and Cassandra Bonilla. And it was really nice to, these kids, the capacity of these young people is amazing. You know, some of the things that they did. I'm not going to read their resumes, we'd be here all day. But it was really nice to have that opportunity to recognize both the adults and the young people that we call community heroes. And I want to thank everybody that attended, participated in it as well, all those who were behind the scenes as well to make things happen. We have a phenomenal community services department. If you ever dealt with them, you will find that to be the case. So that's all I wanted to share there, Mr. Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember. Anyone else at this time like to share anything? Okay, I will go ahead and just briefly hit a couple high points. Again, had the opportunity to attend many of the same things that my other fellow colleagues did, but I just wanted to emphasize a couple of others. Obviously, the Arizona State Legislature has opened, and so we'll be spending a lot of time down there. We have a presentation on that tonight, so we'll be talking a little bit about our legislative platform and the things going on here that we are doing our best to make sure that we influence at the Arizona State Legislature. Also, I had the opportunity to attend the Loop 202 opening with Governor Ducey. That was an excellent experience, and I know that most of you that travel to 347 have already noticed a bit of a relief or a reliever on that. I keep telling people it's a bit of a Band-Aid, so don't think that it's going to stay that way forever. As we continue to grow, that will fill back up, and that will become challenging again. But again, it gives us more time to work on the 347 as a whole. So it's something that we're actively pursuing and doing our best to continue to help the agencies that have control over that. Gila River and ADOT and others to see the light, and we are working currently with our state legislators and others to drive funding for this project. So it is something that is moving forward, but I know we all want it yesterday. So it is coming, but that is a big thing. And then I just wanted to congratulate the Community Services Department. I don't know what the officials' numbers were for the balloon glow that we just had and balloon festival. From me standing in a booth for 5 hours, I could have sworn I saw 8,000 people walk by, but it could have been more, could have been less. But if you had a chance to go, it was a phenomenal event, and I look forward to many more so in the future. But and hopefully bigger and better. I know that's kind of the goal, but many success, congratulatory ultimate words go to the Community Services Department for pulling that off. So again, many thanks, and that concludes the report from the mayor at this time. That'll take us to the report from the city manager.
Mayor, I'd like to grant my time to Nathan Elliott, Director of Community Services, to make some introductions.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. I'd like to take some time right now to introduce you to our new Recreation Supervisor over at Copper Sky. Where's he at? He's right here. He's sneaky. This is Brandon Washington. He comes to us from Orlando. Obviously, we do the best search we possibly can to get people all over the nation to apply and hopefully come to Maricopa. And we're always looking for the best possible candidate. And Danny and I went through, a couple hundred applications, and Brandon was among the best to be there. And we were ready to go back out if we needed to, but we talked about it, and we said we could interview 100 people and not find somebody as good as Brandon. And the way he talked about leadership and what was important to him and how that matched what our mission is and what we're trying to do here in Maricopa. So we're very excited to introduce you to him today. He just started today, so I told him if you're in community services, this is the most boring day of your career with the city of Maricopa when you're going through all the onboarding videos and everything like that. So it's all going to be fun from here, or at least a challenge. So I'll give Brandon a little bit of time to introduce himself, but we're really excited to have him.
Great.
Like Nathan said, my name is Brandon Washington. I come from Florida. I'm really excited to be here. I got here on Friday, so it's just getting my sea legs underneath me, and yeah, I'm really excited. The Community Service Department has a lot of cool things going on, so I hope to add to that and everything. So I look forward to meeting you guys and talking to you guys, and also the citizens as well. So thank you.
Awesome. Thank you, Brandon. Welcome. Okay, I believe that concludes item 5. That'll take us to item 6, which is the call to the public. A couple of things here. I have a few speaker cards. I'll go to those first. Just so I always say, I have a little timer up here for you. It flashes at 30 seconds to the end. We have 3 minutes for you to tell us what's on your mind. I'll go ahead and call those folks up, and please give us your name. But please keep to the 3 minutes, as we want to make sure we have enough time for everyone that wishes to speak, including the rest of the presentations for tonight's business. So first and foremost, we have Tori Anderson. Come on up.
Good evening, Mayor Price. Vice Mayor Smith has a nice ring to it. Congratulations. Tori Anderson. I obviously am a resident of City of Maricopa. It's been a crazy weekend, phenomenal weekend for the city. But I have one more phenomenal event to tell you about, and that is the Seed to Change Gala, which is February 29th. I did put an invitation. I know they were mailed to you. They were mailed out. It's been in the newspaper. It's February 29th of 2020 this year. It's our 15th annual. All proceeds go to our Against Abuse Incorporated Maricopa shelter. It stays local. It's an amazing event. It's sold out every year. Tickets are limited to 300.
Great.
So we want to make sure that everybody has an opportunity to purchase their tickets. We do have several sponsors who make it possible to put the event on, and I just want to tell you our host sponsors are Ace Hardware, Harris Ak-Chin Indian Community, Bud Home Inspection in Maricopa, and Meritage Homes. And when I come in the next meeting, I'll let you know who our next level of sponsors are. It's a lot of information. But I wanted to make sure everybody knew this is the only event you should really go to.
Clearly.
I mean, you know, not that I'm partial.
Of course not.
Of course not. I am here on behalf of Against Abuse Incorporated. I also serve on the Maricopa Unified School District and also on the Arizona School Board Association and the National School Board Association. And I want to thank Vice Mayor Smith and Councilman Wade for your letters of recommendation. I did win my nomination at the state level, so thank you. I appreciate your support. Against Abuse has provided domestic and sexual violence services to Pinal County since 1981. Last year, I just wanted to let you know where your money goes. Last year, we did serve 1,045 women, men, and children. That money goes directly into our community members. So it's important that we continue to do these fundraisers. Our community is extremely giving, and I am very grateful to be a resident of this great city. As I've been here almost my entire life, over 50 years, let's say that. So thank you for your support. Look forward to seeing everybody at the gala, February 29th of 2020. It's at Province, and it's going to be a fun night. It's going to be the Great Gatsby. But get your outfits ready. So thank you.
Thank you, Tori. We appreciate it. Next up is Shelley Gillespie.
Get it down where I can reach and see. Thank you very much, Mayor, Council, staff, and neighbors. I'm very appreciative of the opportunity to get up and speak and tell you about some great things that are going on in the arts community in the next few months, some of which involve Copa Shorts Film Fest, of which I'm co-director. First of all, we have Arts Fest on February 1st. It's going to be a great event, and we thank you, the city, the school district, and also Maricopa Arts Council for making this possible. We're going to have a gala of people there, and it's going to be very exciting. First, we have the Maricopa Community Theater. We have 2 different groups that are going to be there. Oh, the Maricopa Community Theater is doing 1 act of their current play, The Importance of Being Earnest. And it's a very popular play. It's been around for a long time, over 100 years. So we have that. And then next there will be a poetry slam, which Judith will speak more about. We're sharing the time. And then we have also a choral group with Don Rafflick, who's the director. And one of their numbers, which I thought really tickled me, I used to be in chorus younger, was a 4-part harmony that deals with social media, believe it or not. So that should be a hoot. And then last but definitely not least is Copa Shorts Film Fest. And we have a table read from some of our high school students, as well as we have a a collection of films, I'll say, from our 3 previous film festivals. We're now in the process of gathering films for the fall festivals, one of which will be here on November 7th and 8th. Other events that we're having, and and we also have arts in the lobby of the Performing Arts Center where Arts Fest will be, and some of them are magnificent. You've seen some of the things out here in the hall. Some of those artists will also be exhibiting at that. So it's going to be a great event on February 1st. The rates are very low to get in, and we welcome everybody to join us for that. And then coming after that, for Copa Shorts, is we have a day of free workshop, or a half a day, I should say, of short screenplays. So if you've always wanted to write a screenplay, Roger and I, with our expertise and experience, are going to teach people how to do that. And we say, come, you'll learn the concepts, the development, and you'll have a chance in 3 hours to get the basics of screenwriting. We can't promise you'll be an award-winning screenwriter, but it's something that could be a lot of fun for you and some people who are looking to express themselves in a new mode. And then, thanks to Nathan Elliott and his staff, we'll be doing a 4-day event in March. We're calling it Canon Video Camp. Canon is co-sponsoring it with the city, and we are going to be having experts who are knowledgeable about cameras and filming. And because of that, we ask everybody to join us, and I see I'm running out of time. It's a $25 refundable deposit, March 16th through 19th. Okay, thank you very much, everybody. Enjoy,
Thank you,
have
Shelley.
a wonderful season.
Thank you. Next up, I have Susan Cameron.
So, good evening, Mayor Price, Vice Mayor Smith, council members and friends and neighbors and everybody that lives in Maricopa, especially all those that love the arts. We are presenting through the Cultural Affairs and Arts Committee that is organized through the city, this recent gallery called Self-Awakening. And we have, I believe it's 21 different paintings and weavings and jewelry, and I believe it's 10 different artists. And actually, we have the lovely Tiffany Yazzie with us tonight. If Tiffany would stand up. Tiffany's wearing traditional Navajo wear this evening. And she has the beautiful eye dazzler rug out in the hallway here, dyed. And some of the dyes come from the little fruits in the front of the city building, actually. She picks them, she squishes them up and dyes them anyway. So we would like to invite everyone to come and see this wonderful gallery. And it will be running till the end of April. And then we will be presenting a new one. We've got 5 new artists involved this time, as well as some famous regulars. Mr. Herman Newberger, who's been a longtime resident of Maricopa, has some beautiful works out there, pencil drawings that are very interesting. So thank you very much, and please go out and take a look at all the artwork. It's wonderful. Thanks, folks.
Thank you, Susan. We appreciate it. Judith Zaman.
Thank you, Mayor Price, and good evening, Vice Mayor Smith, City Council members, officials, and neighbors. I'm Judith Zaman, co-director of Maricopa Arts Council, and no, this is not a broken record, but I'm here to speak about arts events. We have 2 fantastic arts events right here in Maricopa these next 2 Saturday evenings. That's what I'm going to chat about. This Saturday, January 25th, Maricopa welcomes local poet champions from all across the state to compete in the All-Arizona Poetry Slam Championship right here in our city. This is the 4th year Maricopa Arts Council has brought the All-State Poetry Slam Championship to our own city. and we are proud to be hosting the All-State Contest. Led by National Slam winner The Clute, poets already crowned local champions from Phoenix, Sedona, Flagstaff, Surprise, Mesa, ASU's Masters of Poetry, and Maricopa's own 2 champions will be competing. They compete over 3 rounds in an Olympic-style event. Slam poetry is really great because it marries creativity and performance together. These poets write their own words, then deliver them with passion and conviction, live. No props, no music, no scenery, just compelling words. 3 money prizes are offered by the Arts Council, $150, $250, and the top prize of $400, plus an original work of art. And the 5 judges are selected from among the audience, so plan to attend and make history in this all-state competition. Saturday night, Honeycut Coffee, starting at 5:30 with Art on the Spot, a 1-hour event that is a prelude to the Poetry Slam, in which a painting is created before your very eyes while you go ahead and order some delicious food from Honeycut Coffee's menu. The painter this year is our own Susan Cameron, and Susan is a real force in the visual arts of this city. Admission is only $5. Plan to be there. It's going to be great. The following Saturday, February 1st, brings Arts Fest Maricopa, Chapter 2, titled Stage and Story. It's the next step forward from last fall's music and dance. And this incarnation of Arts Fest is a true feast of all the arts. We have artists of all types and all ages, live performances by Maricopa Community Theater, Copa Shorts Film Fest, Maricopa visual artists led by Susan Cameron, Maricopa Chorus, and Slam poets. The event is at Maricopa High School Performing Arts Center. Doors open at 6:00 p.m. The on-stage performances begin at 7. General admissions only $10. Students of all ages only 5. Read about all these great events on Maricopa Arts Council's Facebook pages. Thank you.
Thank you, Judith. Appreciate it. The last speaker card I have at this time is Mr. John Amlawski. John, come on up.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor and council members. I am a resident in Tortosa, and I'm here to speak about infrastructure, or the lack thereof.
Okay.
The Honeycutt Road from White and Parker intersection to Murphy Road is a disaster, both in the mornings and in the afternoons. People traveling out to work, school buses, and people delivering children to their schools, and vice versa in the evenings. It takes my husband and I longer to get out of Tortosa, at least 20 minutes to a half an hour at those times of the day. Then we head to 347, and from entering the I-10 to Scottsdale, where we go to the Mayo Clinic every Monday, it's shorter to take that section than it is to get out of Maricopa. The city keeps issuing building permits for Tortosa, for Mirage, and for the other communities out there, but they do not provide for the infrastructure to take care of the new residents who will be moving in there. This is a major problem. The city collects permit fees, they collect taxes, but they do not spend it on the infrastructure. It's a 2-lane road from White and Parker to the canal, and then it expands into 3 lanes, 1 in each direction, and a comfort lane up the middle for turning. And then it gets into Tortosa, and it goes on to Murphy Road. I think it's a disgrace that we continue to take in revenue, but we do not provide for the benefits of the residents who live out there. It's a major problem, major problem, People are concerned about the tie-ups on White and Parker. That's nothing. You get through those intersections relatively quickly. But there's a whole sector, from Honeycutt to Casa Grande, from White and Parker to Murphy Road, that is going to be expanding exponentially in the years ahead. And there is no plan to take care of the infrastructure, that is road traffic, vehicular traffic. I'm sorry to say, I really do not think the city should be spending $1.25 million to put a gateway to Maricopa in. That's a wonderfully conceived idea from students acting as council members, but I think the adults behind them should be guiding that $1.25 million to the infrastructure that meet the needs of the residents. The sign leading into Maricopa, you see replicated all over the state in cities that even have more historical significance than Maricopa. That is adequate. We don't need a boondoggle of a gateway to the city. Thank you.
Thank you, John. I will ask that either City Manager Horst right there or one of our development services staff, they'll be able to get with you and talk about some of your concerns. We just can't answer from the dais here, as it's illegal for us to do so, but thank you for telling us your ideas tonight. We appreciate it. Anyone else at this time like to approach the council and tell us what's on your mind?
Thank you, Mayor Price, Vice Mayor Smith, council members. My name is Andre Lafond, and I'm running for City Council here in Maricopa. I just wanted to thank the city for the wonderful festival that we just had, the Maricopa Glow. It was beautiful to watch, especially in the evening, watching the hot air balloons light up. It was a lot of fun. Got to meet a lot of interesting people, walk around, wonderful vendors as always, and I look forward to next year when it's a larger, more vibrant experience. I also wanted to thank Mr. Henry Wade, council member, for the MLK event that he and a group of others put together once again at the Copper Sky facility. It was a fantastic tribute to not just MLK's vision, but for our community leaders, especially recognized members such as Councilmember Marvin Brown. Congratulations again, sir. I absolutely implore you, next year, if you did not go, come, celebrate, have a drink, have some good food, have some wonderful conversation, and see what this community is really about. Thank you very much. I'll let you guys all continue on. Take care.
Thank you, Andre. Appreciate it. Anyone else at this time like to approach the council? Okay, seeing no one, we'll go ahead and move to the next item on the agenda, which is item 7.1. This is the approval of the minutes from December 17th, 2019. Council, can I have a motion to approve, please?
So move.
Is there a second?
Second.
There's a motion and a second. Any further discussion on the minutes at this time? Seeing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? That motion carries. And that'll take us to the consent agenda. Council members, do you have anything on the consent agenda that you would like to have questions or removed prior to getting there? Yes, Councilmember Manfredi.
Yeah, 8.1, I'd like to give Dale and Todd an opportunity to, discuss with us a little bit more about the legislative platform.
Okay.
Kind of what's going on down there. We just started the session.
Yep.
So what do they see coming forward, and then go from there.
Okay.
So maybe move it to regular agenda?
Right, so there's a request to move 8.1 to the regular agenda. Any concerns with that? Okay, great. Anything else on the consent at this time? Wish to have questions addressed at this time? Okay, seeing none, we'll take us to approving the consent agenda, items 8.2 and 8.3. Can I have a motion to approve, please?
So
Motion, is there a second? And a second there. Any further discussion on those two? Seeing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? That motion carries. That'll take us to item 9, which is the regular city council meeting agenda for this evening, which will move into presentations and discussion. Some items we'll be voting on. We will now go to 8.1 that we just moved from consent. Let's see. So 8.1, the mayor and city council shall discuss and possibly take action on approving the 2020 legislative platform. This is for discussion and action. And at this time, we'd like to invite up Dale Webush, who is our intergovernmental affairs director, as well as Todd Bauman, who is from PDG. He is our state lobbyist.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. Thanks for the opportunity to do this today. Yes, this is Todd Bowman from Policy Development Group, our state lobbying contract Association, and I just want to start with saying I couldn't do my job without Todd. He's invaluable to me. So what I'll do is I'll give you just a real brief kickoff to the session. I'll have Todd talk a little bit about the climate down there. He did study meteorology in college. And then I'll get into a couple specific items, and then, of course, any questions that you may have. So we started on January 13th. It is the second latest day we could start in January, the way the Constitution reads that we run our state. The governor gave his State of the State address that day, laid out his sort of broad visions for different items. And on Friday, the governor revealed his budget proposal. So far, we've seen about 900 bills, and I'm tracking 210. Yes, I read them all. You're welcome. There's a few swipes at local control, nothing gigantic. And there's a slight dent in shared revenue, nothing gigantic as well. We have approximately $500 million available on a state level for one-time spending, and about 150 for ongoing spending. This is the largest budget ever introduced by a governor in the state of Arizona in its history. So I'll pause there. I'll have Todd come up and talk a little bit about the overall climate, things to expect on a broader sense, and then I'll come back up and talk a little bit about more specific items. Thank you.
Thanks, Dale. Thank you, Mayor, Vice Mayor, and Council. It's a privilege and honor to be here. Maybe before I jump into kind of what I had prepared and written down, I don't know if we have any of our arts friends here, but the governor in his proposed executive budget actually put $2 million in his executive budget for the arts. So that's that was a nice gesture to the arts, and I think that's something that will be good. This is, I do believe, kind of the $12.3 billion question, which is what the governor's budget was proposed to be, is how long is this session going to go? And that's what everybody wants to know, how long we're going to be in. And kind of the general consensus, I think, from a lot of people down at the Capitol is that this is going to be a little bit of a quicker session than normal. There's a few reasons for that. One is that the leadership wants to try and do a budget as soon as possible. Sometimes there's bills floating around out there that they don't necessarily want to see go anywhere, and so can they go ahead and get a budget done and then get the bills done that they want to in a kind of a quick fashion to do that. There's also, the governor came out with his budget, the Senate came out with their budget kind of proposal last week as well, and it was pretty similar to the governor's budget. The House hasn't come out with theirs yet, but they probably will do that sometime this week or next. And kind of word on the street is that they're somewhat similar. So I think if you start to see the three of those budgets start to align, then I think we could have a little bit of a quicker session. The goal, just for a time frame, for you all, is that the goal for the legislative leadership, what they've said is they'd like to see a budget done during crossover week. So crossover week is when the House has heard all of their House bills, and then they ship them over to the Senate to be heard, and same thing in the Senate. So this year, that week falls February 24th through February 28th. Now, I've been down at the Capitol for 13 years, and I have never seen that happen. But some of the folks that have been down there longer than me have said they used to do that in the past. So that is an opportunity. So just from a time frame perspective, that's kind of what would be probably the best case scenario to get the budget done. And then once you get the budget done, things really start to pick up. So I think that's a lot of people's hopes, a lot of legislators, a lot of lobbyists' hopes that this can be a quick session. But there's also some folks down there that say, that's great, but that's an Elsa and Anna fairy tale. This isn't really going to happen. This is going to play out. This is going to be a long, long session. So because the state does have money to spend, and sometimes when you have money to spend, that's when the fights really happen. But I won't belabor it. I know you guys have a long agenda tonight, but the governor did come out with his budget. He did, from a cities and towns perspective, there really wasn't anything in there that was draconian as far as cuts or hit the cities at all. There were some positive things in there for cities, and especially for rural Arizona, but there's a K-12 spend, continued to do that. transportation money, put some transportation money in there for I-10, and then some other spends as well. As Dale referenced on the bills, there's about 900 bills out there. That's a ton of bills to have out there. I think what you're going to see is you're going to see the speaker and the president stick a lot of these in their drawers, their respective drawers, meaning either they won't assign them or they'll assign them to a committee that they'll never be heard. So there's going to be some bills out there that may get some press that will never get heard in a committee. But that doesn't mean you have to pay attention to them. So, and then lastly, I'll just wrap up with this and then answer any questions if you have them. But your elected officials down at the Capitol, Dale and I see them on a constant basis. We were able to spend an hour this morning or this afternoon with Representative Roberts talking about what's going on at the Capitol, but particularly as it pertains to Maricopa and you all, making sure that you all are represented down there. You are, I would say, it's a pretty unique and pretty just cool position to be in, that you have two people on Appropriations Committee. You have somebody on the House Appropriations Committee with Representative Roberts, and then you have Senator Leach, who is Vice Chairman of the Senate Appropriations Committee. And that's obviously that's the committee that the budget goes through, so it's a unique honor for you all to have from your own district people that are on both committees. So I think that bodes well for you all in your district. So with that, happy to answer any questions.
Council, questions of Mr. Bowman?
Todd, I can appreciate that the legislature would probably like to have an expedited session, but one of the major issues afloat, pardon the pun, is water issue. I serve on the Pinal County Water Augmentation Authority, and we have here tonight Ron, who, of course, as you know, chairman of Global Water. One of his key staff people, Jake, serves on our board in addition to that committee with Bill and Supervisor to see what's going on as far as the issue that ADWR comes out with X figures, and of course it differs substantially from the hydrology that the Agriculture Committee community in Pinal County comes up with. So that's going to be an ongoing issue. I don't know how you're going to short script that quickly. I don't know if Ron is going to speak to that tonight or another issue, but that's a major issue. And,
yeah, Councilman Brown, you're exactly right, and Dale and I have had conversations with members about that. I'll let Dale speak to that.
Mayor, Council, Councilman Brown. So in addition to the Pinal group that you sit on, the mayor and I sit on another Pinal water group. Representative David Cook, who lives outside of the Globe area, had an interim committee on Pinal County water issues and then charged people, so to speak, to come up with potential solutions. His expectation is that we'll look at legislation dealing with Pinal County water issues in 2021, not 2020. So kicking the can a little bit down the road. I think there's at least one of the reasons for that is this is an election year. Mm-hmm. And perhaps we don't want to deal with something of that potentially divisive a nature in an election year. That's my professional opinion, sir.
Thank you.
Yes, Vice Mayor.
So we're all excited about what happened this past week with Prop 416 and 417. And I know because Supervisor Anthony Smith is headed to a meeting tomorrow with the Transportation Committee, have the two of you hit up the Transportation Committee and those involved on 347 and the importance of the state helping out with planning and funding for that effort?
Mayor, Vice Mayor, Council, a couple of different fronts on this. Representative Noel Campbell, who lives in Prescott, is the chair of that committee, that House Transportation Committee. And I've known Mr. Campbell for a long, long, long time. So he is conscious of the difficulty that we have with 347. Today, when we met with Representative Brett Roberts, we were talking extensively about that issue as well. Because we have the strategic planning session tomorrow, our attendance at the Transportation Committee won't be possible. However, we have sent in our backlog data to the league that would then send it on to Mr. Campbell and his committee. And this afternoon, I penned a letter for the mayor addressing some of these issues as well that we'll be sending along to Mr. Campbell. So they are acquainted with our difficulty.
All right, that's great. I'm not obviously an expert in the legislation that happens at the state, but don't you need to understand which props, which legislations are going to go through before you can actually finalize a budget? Because some of them cost money, right?
Mayor, council, vice mayor, yes, but.
Figure there must be a but in there somewhere.
Yeah. One of the things that is also a little bit different this year than in prior years is there are several, I'll just use transportation for an example. In the Senate, they've gone through several small transportation infrastructure project bills, $2.5 million, $3 million, $4 million, $5 million, something like that. I think Todd and I counted up, there were 12 of those. Those will go into the box. Now, I'm going into very technical jargon, the box.
The box.
And then certain legislators will get into the cage with the box. I'm not making this up. And then they'll say, okay, we can afford this, we can afford that, we can afford this, we can afford that, we can afford this, we can afford that. And then other legislators who aren't in the cage will say, if you want my vote, I need what's in the box to get in the budget. And so the horse trading is involved. I think part of what they're trying to stave off this year is there was a problem last year, particularly in the Senate, where certain senators said, I'm not going to vote on the budget, and then he got an ally with him, and because the splits are so narrow in the House and the Senate, you can't afford to lose somebody. And a tie is the end of a bill. So there's 17 Republicans, 13 Democrats in the Senate, and there were 2 Republican senators who said, we're not voting for the budget until we get this non-budget bill. And it held things up for a while. So I think this year what they're trying to do is avoid that scenario and try to find those budget items earlier that people want instead of waiting until they're in the cage, in the box, and all that. They're trying to flesh out those opinions quicker. I think it was in 2009 where the Senate president said, no bills will go to the floor until we get the budget done. And that was horrendous. We were there till 7:30 in the morning on July 1st. And we got called back by the governor to 9 special sessions, including one on December 23rd. They don't want to do that again. So they'll try to flesh out those money bills early so they have this general idea what will be in the budget. And then their hope is that they can accomplish this at the end of February, as Todd said. And then March will be spent on regular bills that don't cost money. And then they'll be done. The shortest session that I've been around was 81 days, Governor Ducey's first year. But unfortunately, they missed a few things. They had to come back the next year and clean them up because it went too fast.
All right, well, thank you for that explanation. It helps a bit.
Yeah, there's all sorts of cliches and metaphors, but it's a mess.
Yeah. Going back to the State Route 347, will you guys follow up with that transportation committee to make sure that they receive the letter, pushing hard for, this is so important to our community that I just want to make sure you're going to be following up with it.
Absolutely.
Touching base with them. Okay.
Mayor, Vice Mayor, Council, we've also supplied Mr. Roberts with some other data. There was a 2015 MAG study on the area transportation plan, and particularly Appendix H, which details the level of service on 347 and how it deteriorates over time. Both Representative Roberts and I have calls into ADOT to get their grading system. And then, of course, we have the MAG scoping study that we're all breathlessly awaiting.
Perfect. All right, thank you.
Councilmember Manfredi.
Yeah, thanks for coming. Thanks for having a discussion with us. It's very important because, you know, we all have friends up there. We all have people that we talk to all the time up there. As you know, Brett's one of my best friends. And I was talking to him last week, and he's anxiously trying to do something for the 347. And, you know, one of the things I talked to him about is the study coming, and he's trying to find ways that maybe he can get some funding somewhere and get that somewhere. You mentioned 1713 in the Senate. What is it in the House?
3129.
Yeah. So one person controls a lot of stuff up there. So it's important that, you know, we understand that as voters, as residents, as, you know, constituents of theirs, that we have influence and we need to talk to them. One of the best ways to do that is there's a computer program up there. What's it called?
Request to speak?
Yeah.
Would you like me to describe it?
Yes, and that's what I was going to say. Can you do me a quick favor and explain to everybody how they can have a voice up there?
Mayor, Vice Mayor, Council. So if you go to the Arizona Legislative website, azleg.gov, there's something called Request to Speak. You can register and make an account, and you can weigh in on a bill. You can say, I'm for it, I'm against it, I'm neutral. Who do you represent? Myself, my family, my business, whatever it may be. And if you wish, you can go down and testify.
Yep. Well, one of the most...
That's the quick and easy answer to your question.
Right. And one of the most important things is when they're looking at a bill up there and when we're looking at something up here, you know, if a week before that bill is coming before them or a week before something's coming before us, if we wind up with 100 emails in our email box or if people are calling us every single day about something and they're stressing how important it is that we vote a certain way, it lends extra to it. If we don't hear from someone, and we're like, oh, that's the way it's supposed to be, and we make our decision, and we're just assuming at times that's the way some people want it to be. So it's really important that you get your voice heard. Let them know. Let Brett know. Brett wants to know. Vince wants to know. Vince Leach, he's your senator. And Mark Fincham, they want to hear from you. Doesn't mean they're going to do what you want all the time, but it's good to let them know what you want. Make sense?
Just a quick story about an example of that. It was about 12 or 14 years ago, there was a bill on autism funding. Everybody thought it was going to be dead in the water because you don't ask for extra money for things outside of the governor's process. And over 250 people signed in for the bill. And the committee changed its mind and put it into the budget.
Yeah.
So the power of the people does work indeed.
It does work. No matter what point of it is, no matter what point you are, even when they're having that conversation, if you're up there and their phones are ticking away and let them know, and they're getting emails, it lets them know that that's how you feel about something. So please, stress to 347 to your legislators and to your state senator. Explain to them how important it is. Explain to them the roads here in Maricopa and her funding, and we need to make sure that the money that we're supposed to be getting is coming and they don't touch it, which they're not supposed to this year, but you never know. Things come up. Thank you.
So I would add to the commentary that's been made as far as that, you know, many of you know that I had the opportunity to work at the Arizona State House of Representatives, and in so doing, I was a legislative analyst, and I too have seen committees change their mind, sometimes just based on the distance and by which people drove, because they realized it was a sacrifice to be there. So that request to speak system is really important. The other side to it that I would add is that, you know, one of the things that we have been working very heavily on, as you know, I'm the president of the Arizona League of Cities and Towns, and so I spend a lot of time up there with Todd and Dale. And, you know, there's a certain amount of influence that comes with that, but there's also a certain amount of negativity towards cities and towns by our current legislature. And, you know, take that for what it is, whether it's positive or negative, it really doesn't matter. It's the rule of the game. And so our job is to make sure that we are exerting influence when and where we can. And yet, at the same time, it's also important that to understand that in this game, you can pick people off, you can peel them off, and you can individually talk to people about what they want as well as what you want. And by doing so, it gives you a certain amount of influence that you never thought you had when you're trying to deal with the collective whole. Just the other day, we had the opportunity. Todd knows Speaker Bowers and President Fan very well. We were both able to, along with Dale, go and meet in a joint meeting with both of them at the same time, which is really rare. So I give Todd major kudos for that. But in that process, we were able to speak about 347. We were able to talk about the infrastructure here in Maricopa. talk about so many of the issues that we are underfunded in, and that with this surplus, things that we really wanted to draw their attention to so that they understood that the needs of rural Arizona and specifically Maricopa are in front of them. That's something that's often hard to do at the legislature, where so many people represent the great state of Maricopa County. And so we often like to get them to focus on the rest of the state as well. And so, having these conversations, signing in the request to speak bills, constantly going to each individual legislature, whether it's on the majority side or the minority side, you'll never know. You've heard the phrase before, politics makes for strange bedfellows. I never knew how true that was until I sat in this seat, and that's the reality of it, because you never know what somebody wants to horse trade for. And so having that influence down there and being present and being someone that is recognized when Dale or Todd or myself walk into a given person's office and they already know what we're there for, that's a really good sign, because that means they're thinking about that on the floor when they're voting, and that means that our concerns are going through their minds. So again, I would encourage to follow the advice that's been given. Please contact them, whether it's email, which there's nothing wrong with that. I can tell you they get a lot of emails, and so I know that most of them do their best to read every single one of them. They may not reply, but at the end of the day, if you can sign into a bill that they're about to go through committee on, that's where you have probably some of the most direct influence that you can have. So, Council, any other questions or concerns? Anything else you'd like to ask of your representatives here? Yes, Councilman.
I'd just like to say that I'm sitting here really kind of fighting myself to make the comment, but we are not political at the local level. We are not. That is not our charter. We are responsible for local issues, and that is our concern. But at the legislature, they are. So that would suggest that regardless of who your representative is, you approach your representative, and regardless of if you have a relationship with the other representative, you approach them as well. Mm-hmm. Make sure that everybody gets an understanding of how you feel about issues that are at hand. That's all I want to
Absolutely.
Mr. Mayor, Vice Mayor, Council, a vote's a vote.
Right.
It doesn't matter. I count to 31 and 16 and 1.
Yep.
31 representatives, 16 senators, and the governor.
That's right. Vice Mayor Smith.
The system that you speak of, is it only associated with bills, or such as this transportation committee that's meeting tomorrow and, from what I understand, regularly for the next several weeks talking about transportation issues across the state? Are you allowed to use that system and point it toward the transportation committee so that they also receive all that information from our residents?
The Mayor, Vice Mayor, Council, request to speak system is for a specific piece of legislation.
Okay, thank you. All right, so
you
can't
can
use
certainly
that
send
system.
emails to every
Sure.
single member of
Sure.
the transportation committee.
I just wondered if the same system could be used. Thanks.
Yeah.
And then,
Go ahead.
last
Go ahead.
thing, emails are great. They're really great. Get them out there, but be authentic with your emails. What do they call it? Form emails? Don't send them.
Mm-hmm.
Reason being is they'll delete them before they even read them. They know the first sentence and it's done because they know what's in there. If you speak from the heart and you're authentic, they'll read the whole email. They'll usually get back to you. And it's the same with anything you send out with the emails. Don't use form letters or form emails that people are sending you. Be authentic. Tell them the story. Tell them the heart story that really resonates. Thank you.
I would close with the fact that I know that Noel Campbell is retiring from the House this year. Unfortunately, he's one of our few last remaining stalwarts for transportation, which, I'm a geek for transportation, but it's because it revolves around economic development. He knows our plight. He knows what, we're going to make sure these things are on the record from our side. We've given him this information before. I've been at so many countless transportation type things with him, sat at the table with him, talked to him. He knows me, he knows us. And so he certainly knows our issues. The other side to that, though, I wanted to convey is the fact that, while it's good to keep pounding at home, it's also good to work with those that we have a specific issue on. And so, Brett Roberts and I have been working very closely as we work towards the 347 fixes. Because of the pot of money that exists this year at the legislature, we are trying to specifically target legislation that will allow a one-time donation or spend towards the 347, and it's just a piece of the project. But again, as you build a project that has multiple components to it, it's all seen as one project, even though they're funded differently, or in phases even. But at the end of the day, you have to have money in order to get the whole project funded. And so the more money we have in there, Prop 416, 417 was just announced that it was won at the appellate level. So if Goldwater appeals to the Supreme Court, we'll see what happens there. But that adds $30 million to 347. And so whatever Brett is able to hopefully get in one-time allocations, let's say it was another 10 or 15 or $30 million, that goes to that. And what it does is it starts, adding up that total to hopefully be able to then go to the feds and to ADOT and say, look, we've already paid for, let's say, a third or half of the project. It's really hard for them to say no. It's the same way we did the overpass. And so we know it works. In fact, ADOT champions it around the state saying this is the way to do it. So to work individually with our legislators to accomplish stuff like this is really, really important in getting those allocations so that we can move these projects forward. Otherwise, we're talking the 347 fixes are $150 to $200 million. I can tell you there's about 1,000 projects more important to ADOT than 347. And it's important to us, but it's not important to them. And because they have more traffic in other locations. So it's something that we absolutely need to get to, we need to deal with, and this is one of the ways to do it. And so again, many props to our legislators who are willing to work with us and try and make this happen. So, any other questions for our representatives here that are dealing with the legislature at this time? Any other questions on the legislative platform at this time?
Nope.
If not, I would accept a motion, please.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
The motion and a second. Any further discussion on the legislative platform at this time? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any
Thanks,
opposed?
guys.
That motion carries.
Thank you very
so
much.
Thanks.
Thanks, Todd. Thanks, Dale. That'll take us to item 9.1, which is the mayor and city council shall discuss possibly take action on appointing a citizen to fill the vacancy on the Board of Adjustments. This is for discussion and action. I believe this is Councilmember Vitiello's appointment this time. Turned over to you, sir.
Thank you, Mayor. So, in picking somebody, it takes some thought and understanding what this person's all about. And he walked into this chamber one day, and it's been 2 years now. This gentleman has coming council meetings. I see him everywhere. He comes to every city event. He really cares about this city in 2 years. So my appointee, I am appointing Alfonso Juarez. And let me tell you a little bit about this gentleman. So he retired a few years ago, moved to Maricopa in 2018. He retired from the electric company in California, 35 years of service. If I go through his resume, we may be here so long. This man was involved with every aspect of the job, from top to bottom. That to me was really important in picking him. Like I said, he moved here with his wife, Mickey. He graduated from the Maricopa Advocate Program, also the Leadership Academy. So this gentleman really has shown me in 2 short years what he has put into a city. He moved here. He bought a beautiful home. He loves this city. And to me, this was really important for me to nominate him because of how much he cares, because this is a very important position. So hopefully that everybody up here will agree with me. And again, Alfonso, please stand so everybody can see who you are, and thank you very much.
Can I have a motion with that, please?
So moved.
Second.
I'm going to backdate this for a second. Can I give the motion to Mr. Vitiello? Would that be acceptable, and then would you second?
That's
is that
true.
okay?
Yeah,
So,
understood,
you're right,
understood.
so my apologies. Councilmember Vitiello, and then Councilman Wade, would you be so kind to second? Thank you very much. We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion on Mr. Alfonso? Yes.
I just
Councilwoman
wanted
Bessie.
to add, I've seen you at every meeting, except when you were on vacation. I wouldn't be surprised if you were watching it wherever you were on vacation. You've been an excellent citizen. You've been here at every meeting. I've had many conversations with you. You're a top-notch individual, and I'm very, very proud to put you on this, to go ahead and advance this appointment. Thank you.
Great, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion carries. Thank you, Alfonso, we appreciate it.
Thank you.
And where's Nathan when I need him? Nathan's not even here in the room. His wife makes amazing salsa. I know you're back there. Wave, so at the Salsa Festival coming up, everyone. All right, thank you very much. That'll take us to item 9.2. The mayor and city council shall hear a presentation from John Corwin with Global Water. Global Water Resources. This is for discussion only. John, take it away.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Okay. Good evening, Mayor, Vice Mayor Smith, council members. Guess while he's getting the clicker fixed, I'll get going in the interest of time. With the new year upon us, we thought it would be a good idea to come to council and provide some updates about Global Water. I'm not going to talk about the water issues specifically here in Pinellas County tonight, but if you'd like us to come back and do a presentation on that, we're happy to do that at any time. So tonight, I did just want to provide some updates. Over the past 2 months, really, we've had a major transition with one of our very large vendors, and that has a lot of customer service implications. And so I wanted to give an update on that, just so you're aware, and to kind of let you know how the process is going. And then also give an update on some of our capital investments that we've continued to do to stay out in front of growth within the city as well. So that's really the content of the discussion today. And let's see. Before I get into that, I'd like to just highlight a couple things. Our top mandates being safety, compliance, and also the importance of customer service. I just wanted to kind of recognize some of our company milestones. So we've gone almost 900 days since our last OSHA recordable safety accident. So, you know, the safety of our employees is something that we take very seriously, and it also ultimately brings down workman comp costs, which feeds into rates. So, you know, there's a benefit to the customer as well. On the compliance side, we've gone about almost 1,400 days since our last significant compliance event. So those are water quality, wastewater quality parameters that we have to follow. So doing quite well on that front as well. And then on the complaint side, so we've had, in 2019, we had 19 regulator complaints. So that's the ACC, Better Business Bureau, Attorney General. That's down from 2017, which we all know was a rough year. We had 121 of those complaints. And then 2018, it was down to 22. So we're trending in the right direction. Our goal is always 0. So we'll keep working hard until we get to that point. So, you know, to the first point of my discussion, so Fathom is a company that Global Water is employed for many of our back office functions. So call center, our billing, the customer portal that customers log into, a number of services that they provide to us that are ultimately customer facing. So Fathom notified us on November 9th that they'd be terminating operations as of November 30th. So that's you know, pretty short timeline there, about 3 weeks that we had to essentially take their services and find an alternative solution or bring it in-house. So typically a transition like that would take upwards of 6 months to make it a smooth transition. We had about 3 weeks of notice. They did present us with an alternative to go with another vendor that provided similar services, and ultimately over a 6 to 9 month period, they would transition us onto their platforms. However, that came with an 8-year contract and a 65% increase to the cost that we were paying to Fathom, which we felt as a company was unacceptable, and ultimately, again, those costs feed into rates, and from a ratepayer perspective, we just felt that was unacceptable as well. And so ultimately we decided to go it alone and bring those services back in-house. You know, we'd had a contingency plan should Fathom ever cease to operate that we would implement. We didn't necessarily predict it would go in the manner that it did and as quickly as it did, but we were able to execute on kind of the thoughts that we'd put together, primarily hiring Fathom employees. So a little bit of history. Fathom was actually formed by Global Water back in the downturn. Global Water sold Fathom in 2013, and we've been two completely separate companies since then. So because of that, we were located in the same office building, our corporate office and the Fathom office, which made it easy for us to acquire the Fathom employees to come over to our side, because they were essentially just walking down the hall and reporting to a new office. So we were able to hire a number of Fathom employees, call center agents, billing agents, things along those lines. And then we also worked intensely with with over 10 vendors to sign contracts and acquire their services, their software platforms, and things like that to be able to continue those services seamlessly. So just to give a little bit of the scope of what Fathom offered and provided for us, so again, the customer portal, which customers can log into and see their consumption, pay their bill, things along those lines. Our call center operations were operated by Fathom. Our customer information system, so that's kind of the main system that holds all customer data, consumption, address, things along those lines. Our advanced metering infrastructure software, our customer billing, so they would do the billing, they would work with the print vendor to mail out the bills and then post those to the customer portal, and then our work order and asset management platform as well. They hosted that software. And to give you kind of a little visual of what they did, the diagram there on the right is kind of all the nodes that those different platforms, how they touched each other or integrated together. So multiple levels of integration that Fathom had completed over time. So we had to kind of unwind that, bring it onto our side, and then connect all those nodes again so that we can continue to provide those services to customers, get bills out on time, accept payments, and present consumption and things like that back to customers. Additionally, Fathom as a business, their whole business was doing a number of tasks and managing these processes for us. So we had to, kind of, again, figure out all the various tasks that we weren't even aware of that they were doing kind of on a day-to-day basis and bring those in-house as well. And then they managed all the vendor relationships, so we had to reestablish those relationships, re-sign those contracts, and bring those in-house as well. So ultimately, moving forward, we think we're in a better place. There were some minor customer-facing issues, things like the address that customers mail their bills to. Certainly, we would have liked to have given more time to customers, more notice on that. However, given the situation, we only had a very short time to make that transition. The customer portal, there were some delays in information being updated on the customer portal. And then additionally, our call center had some reduced functionality for about a week and a half as we were restanding that platform up. The Fathom business really afforded economies of scale for smaller utilities, and as Global has grown, I think the plan has been for us to get off the Fathom platform and take those services in-house, and so this process really just accelerated that a few years earlier than maybe we anticipated it happening originally. Being off the Fathom platform now, we have more flexibility to really dictate some of our own business rules and make changes on I guess ultimately be more flexible and make changes as necessary. And lastly, the transition is ongoing. There's still some small things in the background that we're working on, but the heavy lifting is done at this point. There may be a few hiccups still along the way, but I think ultimately where we were 2 months ago and where we are now, the process probably went about as smoothly as it could have gone, and we certainly wanted to be as make it as easy on the customer and as possible. So with that, I'll kind of transition over to the capital expenditure side, and I just wanted to highlight a few projects that have been ongoing over the past year and are kind of feeding into 2020 as well. As we talk about water issues in Pinal County, this first project, I think, is something important because it helps us to better manage our water resources here in the city of Maricopa and plan for the future. So there's a facility, a big block building, if you're driving down the Maricopa Casa Grande Highway, and off to the right-hand side before you get to Walmart, just a big block building kind of by a water tank there that's been abandoned for many years. So that's a global water facility that was acquired from what was formerly the 387 district, so an old utility that was a troubled utility. It was going to be their wastewater facility, but they ultimately, I guess, because they were a troubled utility, Global was asked to step in and acquire that utility, which we did, and we already had a wastewater facility, so we didn't need that building. However, we now see use for it, and we've transitioned it into what we call a water resources management facility. Ultimately, we're taking excess recycled water, or recycled water, and there's storage tanks within it, so it gives us capacity in the summertime at high demand for Maricopa Meadows Lake, potentially the city lake at some point if we ever provide water there. And then in the wintertime, the ultimate build out will be some recharge basins around the facility so we can take excess recycled water, recharge it back into the ground, and ultimately we get credits for that water that's recharged that can be used for future growth within the city of Maricopa. So we can save upwards of 600 to 700 acre feet per year in water credits that can be used elsewhere in the future beneficially. Right now it goes down the Santa Rosa Wash. While it's ultimately probably recharging, we're not getting the paper benefit that we'll get from this facility. Another project is the several 16-inch water main liners that we've installed over the past year. I know we had a disruption in traffic over the holiday season to do one of these along Honeycutt at the bridge just before Rancho Mirage. Over the summer, we also did a liner installation in the Santa Rosa Wash as well for a water main that is in the wash. And both of these water mains have been problematic and prone to failure over their history. And so this liner product is it's a high-strength Kevlar that will help prevent future main failures in those areas in the future. The one thing I will say is we haven't lined all of the areas that have been prone to failure, but we've taken steps to at least incrementally start to address some of those issues. So this is some pictures of the wash, and then here's some pictures that were taken of the Honeycutt project over the holidays. And then lastly, just a few additional projects. We've continued to do some additional updates at our water reclamation facility, so an aerobic sludge digester upgrade. So again, that kind of helps with the capacity at the wastewater facility. We are also finishing up the finishing touches of a recommissioning project on a potable water well. We also did 3 major maintenance events on 3 other prominent wells within the city. So all of our wells in town have really been touched within the last few years. So from a reliability standpoint, that's we're sitting good there. And then lastly, we finished a 16-inch water main extension on Loma Road. That's phase 1 of a multi-phase project. We're getting ready to kick off phase 2, which connects the 16-inch water main from approximately Basha's along 238 to Loma Road. And then that'll ultimately connect to the Apex line that goes out to Apex. So just a few more projects there, a handful of other ones that I won't talk about in the interest of time, but we've been busy over the past year continuing to invest. I think we've invested over the last 5 years, $49 million in all of our utilities, the vast majority of that being here in our utilities in Maricopa. So with that, I'll close it up unless there's any questions.
Council questions for John at this time?
I have a question.
Councilman Wade.
I have a question, John. Thank you very much for the information you presented. It's nice seeing you and Ron here. I'm curious, of course, and my question lends towards the relationship with the Corporation Commission and how they view some of the changes and improvements that you're doing, and are you getting a positive response from them in that regard?
Yeah, I think they certainly look fondly upon capital investment and investing in the communities we're in. So in those aspects, and being a leader in water conservation and things along those lines, I think they appreciate that and respect that. So we certainly try to foster those relationships, and that's a very important aspect of our business. So we continue. We're in continuous conversation with the corporation and their staff.
Good. Thank you.
Anyone else at this time? Yes, Councilwoman Gussie.
I'm sorry. Anyways.
Not working.
I think it is now.
Yeah.
Just wanted to commend you. I did have a meeting with you one-on-one. The behind-the-scene work that you're doing for our vets. I know one of the issues that we've been talking about back and forth is making sure that our vets that are deployed aren't paying the absorbent cost of having their water on when they're not even at home. So thank you for addressing those. I know we referred a couple of vets to you all, and you all have been working with them behind the scenes. Nobody knows that, but now they do, and thank you for doing that.
Yeah,
appreciate it.
Appreciate that. And we're looking at modifying our low-income relief tariff to, in addition to providing assistance to low-income, also veterans that are deployed or veterans with disability criteria as well. So yeah, those are things that we think are important and we want to support.
John, I just had one question for you. Ron and I had the opportunity to speak. Ron was kind enough to bring this to our attention when it all started happening. Appreciate that. Certainly appreciate the working relationship that Global has with the city as we work on economic development together and everything else. But can you talk a little bit about, and you kind of touched on it, but not specifically, and you touch, it seems to me like you guys have handled this transition very quickly between the Fathom to in-house. And, I just watch my own bills and those types of things, and it seems as though there really haven't been many issues there. Can you talk about any issues that have been happening there with customers? I certainly haven't heard, customers complaining about it. So really, more than anything, this is a kudos to you that you were able to accomplish this in such a short period of time. I know you didn't talk much about that, but I'm just honestly giving you kudos, knowing that, how difficult of a transition this really was, and it could have been dramatically bad for a lot of folks, and I know that you took the customer first and foremost and decided that this was something you were going to invest in. So you can talk a little bit about that just briefly?
Yeah, sure. Like you said, we, sitting here, or 2 months ago, sitting there and knowing where we're at now, I would have taken this outcome 10 times out of 10. So, we were quite uncertain of how everything would play out, and, I think through a lot of hard work, a lot of the vendors that we've now partnered with, they certainly stepped up, particularly being over the holidays, and helped us out and made sure the integrations were seamless and kind of, like I said, connected all those nodes for the various softwares back together. Things that we've done, things along the lines of, we've suspended disconnects just in the interest of, we knew that there were probably going to be a couple errors, and the last thing we wanted to do was accidentally disconnect somebody. So those have been suspended for the past 2 months. They will pick back up here, in the near future. But there have been a few hiccups along the way, a few billing hiccups, and we've tried to be as punctual to get those resolved as possible when those have been brought to our attention. So, wasn't a perfect process, but I think it did go fairly smooth given the complexity of the situations.
And again, I just want to thank you for the accommodation to the consumer, the client, the constituent, for how hard you worked on that, because again, I know it could have been a really ugly process. So, again, many thanks on that. So, anyone else at this time, council? Okay, thank you very much for the update. We appreciate it.
Thanks, John.
That'll take us to item 9.3. This is a resolution of the mayor and city council of the city of Maricopa, Arizona, approving and adopting a development incentive agreement between the city of Maricopa and Thompson Thrift Development, an Indiana corporation, in compliance with the ARS 9-500.05, and authorizing the city manager to execute and exhibits and related documents in a form substantially similar to the documents presented before the mayor and council tonight. This is for discussion and action. City Manager Horst, are you going to be taking the lead on this?
I am. Thank you, Mayor and Council. I appreciate your time tonight. I'm delighted to forward this agreement to you. It's been a many month effort, taking a lot of both the Thompson Thrift development time and staff time, but well worth it. To be clear, we're talking about the property fronting John Wayne Parkway between Culver's and the coffee shop, Dutch Brothers. The plan is to bring 85,000 square feet of retail development, including retail that would not be readily available to us. I don't think I need it for this presentation. And we're delighted to work in partnership with them to make this project happen. We've had discussions with you multiple times over the past several months, and we're prepared to answer any questions that you have. The developer is here should you have any questions for them. But I think outside of questions, we're seeking your approval tonight to move this forward.
Council, any questions at this time? I know we're all pretty excited to see this come out of the ground, and I know that Casey's in the back. He and I had a chance to speak today. And talked about some of the delays, some of the things that are beyond our control, certainly beyond his control. But I know we're very excited to see retail come out of the ground for the benefit of the citizens of Maricopa. So, any questions or concerns that you have at this time? If not, I would accept a motion.
So moved.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any further discussion at this time on this item? Seeing none, because it's a development agreement, we will move to a roll call vote.
Vice Mayor Smith?
Yes.
Councilmember Vitiello?
Yes.
Councilmember Brown?
Yes.
Councilmember Manfredi?
Yes.
Councilwoman Gussie?
Yes.
Councilmember Wade?
Yes.
Mayor Price.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Great, thank you very much. That'll take us to item 9.4. This is the resolution, 20-01, of the Mayor and City Council of the City of Maricopa, Arizona, declaring as a public record that certain document filed with the city clerk and entitled Development Impact Fees, setting forth the development impact fees adopted by the City Council by Resolution 19-57, and amending the Maricopa City Code by replacing Appendix A of Chapter 17 of the previously adopted City Code. This is for discussion and action. Brenda, take it away.
Good evening, Mayor Price, Vice Mayor Smith, and Council. Tonight brings us to the culmination of a long list of meetings and conversations we've had about the development impact fees and the land use assumption report. And tonight is just both the resolution and adoption or ordinance are before you for action to finally implement the development impact fees to be effective February 2nd of 2020.
Okay. Council, do you have any questions on the development impact fees at this time?
Not this time.
I know we have reviewed these at the meeting here and in various meetings over the course of the past year. Again, many thanks to council or to staff for all the meetings and meeting with the home builders and commercial developers. Just by way of info to the public, development impact fees, and to John, to your point earlier, about one of the things that we try and do in driving infrastructure is in order that growth should pay for growth. And so this is one of the ways in which we do it. But we also have to remain competitive as we lie in the rural area, a little bit outside of the Maricopa County area. And so as such, we have to be competitive. So how do we find that happy medium? I think that we're doing it in this particular case. We're not at the high level, we're not at the low level, kind of right in the middle. And we've gotten everybody, these stakeholders to agree and to sign off on this. So we really have gone above and beyond to work together to find what it is that we need so that we can create the infrastructure, and what it is that they need so that they can continue to build and make a profit. But not too much of a profit without helping to pay for that growth. So with that, can I have a motion, please?
So move.
There's a motion. Is there a second? And a second. Any further discussion on this item? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion carries. Thank you very much. Appreciate your work on that. And this is 9.5, an ordinance of the Mayor of the City Council of the City of Maricopa adopting the development impact fees by reference, which replaces Appendix A of Chapter 17 of the Maricopa City Code and providing for the severability and the effective date thereof. This is for discussion and action. Again, it is just the ratification of the ordinance. Do you have any questions, Council? Seeing none, can I have a motion, please?
So moved.
I have a motion from Councilwoman Gussie. Is there a second?
Second.
A second from Vice Mayor Smith. This is a roll call vote, please.
Councilmember Manfredi?
Yes.
Councilmember Wade?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Smith?
Yes.
Councilmember Vitiello?
Yes.
Councilwoman Gussie?
Yes.
Councilmember Brown?
Yes.
Mayor Price?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you very much. Item 9.6, the Mayor and City Council shall hear a presentation by the City Manager Horst, who will present the investment report for the period ending September 30th, 2019. In addition, the City Manager is recommending a change to our current investment practices to include two items. Number one, to invest excess liquidity in longer-term assets, and number two, to increase the duration of our investment portfolio. This is for discussion only at this time. City Manager Horst.
Thank you. A quick sidebar before I get into the presentation. A lot of people were involved in the impact fee, but I'd just like to especially thank Brenda for her leadership in making that happen. And I see Jennifer hiding over there behind my line of sight, Jennifer Bostian, who was very incremental in working with the agreement we just passed for Snoring Creek, so I wanted to thank her too. So tonight, I wanted to accomplish a couple of things, and perhaps a couple of sidebars related to this. Most people don't realize that governmental finance and accounting is far different than the private sector. It's significantly different. And most people don't realize that of the funds we get in, the vast majority, up to 80+% of it, is earmarked or restricted to how it can be used. You as the legislators do not have a choice. It's based on state statutes and federal statutes where monies can be spent. So sometimes when we see for instance, a swimming pool being built, when we say it could be used somewhere else, well, we have no choice. That money is earmarked and restricted to those uses. So I say that in part for clarification for earlier questions, and we'll talk after the meeting, but also because I think it references to some degree what we're talking about here. So as you are aware, PFM has been our partner in managing our portfolio since, it says question marks on here, but I looked it up, it's since November of 2012. At present, our investment portfolio has grown to over $56 million. Right now, Angel, myself, and Jennifer Brown serve as the committee who manages this with consultation from PFM. Their performance has been outstanding, in my opinion. It's one of the better ones I've worked with in my career. And what's interesting is they announced to us just recently, they've been serving us so well that they're going to cut their fee by $10,000. So kudos to them. I think that speaks well for all of us, and we're grateful for that. So for 2019, this is the accrued interest that we've earned on our investments. And you can see that it's not insignificant. We grew our portfolio by $1.1 million in 2019. Now, admittedly, a lot of that had to do with the market, a really good market going on right now. But frankly, if we did half of this, it still would have been a nice plus. And that's based on the guidelines that we put in place to monitor our investments. We don't want to be too overly aggressive, so we don't overly invest. We have rules about where we will invest, what type of investments, overseas investments or not overseas investments, levels, and many things that we talk about. But these type of investments is how we grow some of that discretionary money that the council can use at a future date. Now, our investment portfolio is one that we really don't want to touch because it's a long-term thing. And when you think about the future growth of the city, and I realize it seems like a long ways off, but when we get to that day when we start to be filled in, we're going to need these type of investments to cover costs that won't be coming in from new development. And the reasons why that is smart is we can do this today and be ready in 30 and 40 years, or we can just raise your taxes, make up those differences. A lot of cities just say, we'll raise those taxes. A lot of cities say, well, that'd be some else council's problem in the future. But this mayor and council is thinking about you and your children and your grandchildren because they're going to be here in 30 or 40 years, and they won't have to see big increases to cover the quality of life services they get because they prepared for it today. So kudos to you, Mayor and Council, for your guidance and direction in that regard. So I asked PFM, I had two issues in my mind that I thought were pertinent, and so I asked PFM to provide data to either support my theory or kill it. And so that's what I want to present to you tonight. And the first is I asked them to do a cash flow analysis. Now, understand that we have two pools of money. We have our portfolio, which we're talking about tonight, and then we have cash in the pool. The pool is where we keep our cash for short term, where we pay payroll and pay our bills every day and so forth. So the cash flow analysis is designed to help identify an appropriate allocation between assets invested short term or liquidity to meet cash flow needs and assets that can be invested long term, which is our core portfolio. So they did a cash flow model which identifies cash flow needs in the near term. It determines seasonality because taxes and revenues come in different times of the year, and sometimes it's more or less, and we have to still pay the bills during that month. It's not like the paychecks most of it get, it's the same every month. It varies significantly month to month and sometimes quarter to quarter. So the cash flow, again, by definition, liquidity is the overnight to 12-month needs, and the core is the longer duration money that we invest, which under our current portfolio is anywhere from 0 to 3 years. So historically, we did an analysis and we learned that October is when we get the least amount of money, but it's at 95% of norm, and May is the most at 108, almost 109%. Now, I will tell you, having been in this business for nearly 4 decades, that's pretty darn good. I've seen swings as much in 30 and 40% in other cities, so it's pretty well balanced. And you see to the right, September 15th all the way up to 19th, how that historically has looked. Now you'll see a big dip in September 17. That was when you took some money out for the overpass, okay? So that wasn't a market crash or bad investment. That's when you took $5 million or so out to fund our share of the overpass, which the return on that investment will be tremendous. So when we looked at from 15 going forward, you can see from 15 to, we took that $5 million out, the core investment in blue and the liquidity in the kind of pinkish brown color. And then you can see over the last 3 years how the liquidity portion has grown and grown and grown and grown, and the gap has gotten really, really large. So the question was, should some of that gap be put in long-term investment? Okay, so we did the analysis, and we found out that obviously the return on the investment is much higher in the long-term investment than it is on the short-term investment, although we do collect interest on each. So using our historical data and the models and determine where we're at, we're recommending today that we look at a 15% liquidity cushion. In other words, what we need plus another 15% to allow us to make an additional investment into the longer pool. And I'll give you some additional numbers here shortly. So as of September 30th, 19, the city had approximately $19.8 million in excess liquidity, meaning after we pay all our bills, those averages I showed you from 95% to 109, we had $20 million in excess in liquidity. Now let me first start by saying, yes, but a lot of this money is earmarked and restricted. It's not free cash flow to do whatever you want to do with it, okay? So, but we still want to draw money on it as much as we can. So what we're talking about, and you see the line with the yellow line, you see what's above it. We're still historically significantly more than we've been in the past years. So our recommendation is based on a 15% liquidity cushion. The city currently has excess liquidity of $19.8 million. And based on the city's historical balances, we believe the city can safely invest further out, and excess liquidity may be reinvested in longer-term, higher-yielding securities to optimize the portfolio's performance. So that's one of the things we're going to ask you to consider tonight. We can always cash out if we need it through our long-term, and I'll show you some numbers to help with that. So the next one is longer duration. We now are 0 to 3 years. And basically, we feel the 0 to 3 years restricts our cash flow if we went from 1 to 3 years instead of 0. And I'll show you the numbers on that. So the benchmark for the city's investment portfolio, based on the ICE Bank of America 0 to 3, we have always done better. Now, I'll show you some quarterly numbers in just a moment. The city's investment portfolio has never been used to meet short-term cash flow. Historically, the city has not withdrawn funds from its investment portfolio with the exception of the bridge. So the city may want to consider extending the duration of its investment portfolio to better match its anticipated liabilities. And again, liabilities meaning 10 years out, 20 years out, 30 years out, like I expressed earlier. So if you look at the 0 to 3, you see that the annualized total return has been 1.03%, whereas a 1 to 3 would have been 1.18%. Seems minor, but you see the number of 55 million when it could have been 56 million. And frankly, if we did a 1 to 5, which we're not recommending tonight, you could see it could have grown to 59 million. So we may come back to you in 2 or 3, 4 years and recommend a longer duration, but I think this is a safe dip the toe in the water. This one particularly shows the cash based on 1 to 3 versus 0 to 3, and you can see the difference in the accrual that would have occurred. We also put in here what happens if we had the rates fall by half point, 50 points or 25 points or went the other way so you can see the free flow. So we built in some freeboard. You know, we built in safety measures upon safety measures. And remember, the worst thing is, you know, you got to cash it back out to put it back in the other fund if you need it. And we would concentrate on the short-term things if they ever happened, not the longer term. So our recommendation tonight, now I can't click backwards. Did it? I lost my presentation. Okay, are we back at the beginning? Let's see. I don't know if that was the last slide or I just lost it. That was the last slide. Well, we've covered all these. Yep. Okay, that was it. Sorry. Oh, well, you saw it. So, so the recommendation tonight is for us to, number one, take some of the money out of the liquidity, put it into a longer-term investment. You saw the benefits of that. And change our policy from 0 to 3 to 1 to 3 years, meaning the minimum would be a 1-year investment. And I think the rate of returns will be there. And I think as we move out in further years, we can look at the 1 to 5 years. And again, this is all about investing for 20, 30, 40 years out. We get a lot of money from development. When there's no land left to develop, it won't be there. So we want to make sure that we have a backup to pay for police and fire and all those other things that come in, because we will be replacing fire stations. We will have to rebuild libraries, and we won't get new impact fee money for it. So this is preparing for tomorrow. And I think, in my opinion, having worked for 10 cities and 4 states, you are more forward-thinking than any group I've ever worked for. Generally, all they care about is to the end of their term, and then it's someone else's problem. But each one of you are forward-thinking, thinking about 20, 30, 40 years out, and this is our recommendation to you. Be honest with you, we have full authority as a staff to do it, but this is so significant, I wanted to bring it to you. Would never do this without your acknowledgement and agreement. So,
thank you, City Manager. I have a question for you I understand what you're asking here, and it makes perfect sense to me. I'm a financial advisor by trade, so it's what I do. I think that one of the things that I would ask this council, or at least to give direction to the staff that I would like to see personally, is some numbers when dealing with the historical core that you had up there on the screen. I'd like to see the breakdown on how that's invested overall, because we talk about long-term. I mean, in no ways does a city ever invest long-term like a personal investment portfolio would look. I mean, we're talking treasuries, short-term instruments that at longest go to 5 years like we were talking about. However, that being said, when we're talking about moving more of the ancillary cash flow into the historical core, we're talking about that 1 to 3 year time frame. But I would like to see that we take that core and diversify it, because if we're truly talking about making it for 50 years out, then that core needs to be for longer periods of time too. And it doesn't have to be 100% allocated to the furthest or the most aggressive, so to speak, but rather it could be percentaged out as well. And so again, not knowing currently what that is allocated as, I would like to see that we certainly have more in at least a percentage, a 25% or 30% in a 5 year.
We have that data, and I'll send it out Thursday. I'll be a little busy tomorrow, but I'll send it to you Thursday. We are well diversified. The market dictates when it comes time to, a bond or whatever ends, where to replace it. And it moves very quickly, as you know, Mayor. We are very conservative in our investments. We don't take high-risk investments. We don't take overseas investments for the most part. But anyway, I can get that data to you Thursday.
That'd be great. Like I said, from a term perspective, it'd be nice to see that we have a percentage of the historical portfolio.
Yeah, we can break down
1 to 3,
what's in
3 to 5,
what's in the short-term, medium-term, long-term, meaning 3 years, and we can also break down where it's invested.
That'd be great. Council, any questions on this other than that? Any concerns with it? Are we in agreement then? If so, I would accept a motion to accept the city manager's recommendations.
So moved.
Have a motion?
Second.
Discussion only tonight. We'll come back.
I apologize. This is for discussion. We've been on a roll tonight, so my apologies.
We didn't want to be too presumptuous tonight, but we'll come back.
Yes, Councilor Wade.
I'd just like to make a comment in reference to ROI and the ROI we've got on you. The fact that we took an opportunity and I think that made us smart when we selected you as our city manager. And you've done a lot of great things for us.
Okay if I
the city.
agree with you?
Say again? No, I do. I appreciate all the things you've done and the future that we have in the city with you as our city manager. So
When I write my memoirs, which will have reading of one, well, I got 14 grandchildren, so maybe I'll hit 14. You know, I mean, I'm not just saying that. I've worked with councils who really are just so short-sighted that it just irritated me to death. Because, you know, we do this, and I feel like you do this because you're public servants. You're residents. You want your children and grandchildren to have the same quality of life or better. A lot of the cities are just trying to keep from losing quality of life as much as they already are. And so these long-term, looking out proposals that you undertake, a city of this size to have this kind of portfolio is unheard of. No other city, I doubt another city in America has the reserve levels that this city has based on a percentage. Others have more cash, of course, because they're bigger cities. So I appreciate that about you. As you found out, I'm not a spin-and-go city manager either. So
Right.
It's nice to find a council that I'm compatible with and we share the same ideas, but your support is deeply appreciated. I have children and grandchildren living in this community, and I want to make sure they're taken care of. So thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Okay, I think you have your direction there, and that'll take us, oh, do you have anything?
No.
Oh, have your direction. With that, that'll take us to item 9.7. This is the mayor and city council shall discuss and possibly take action on approving an economic development services agreement with the Maricopa Economic Development Alliance, or MEDA, to provide a comprehensive economic development program focused on building jobs and capital investment in the city. This is for discussion and action.
Bless you. Bless you.
Mayor and council, thank you. As you are aware, we started this conversation in last year's strategic planning meeting, and I've spent now 7 months bringing it to this point. As you're also aware, Vice Mayor Smith, Mayor Price, and Councilmember Brown also sit on the MEDA board, so they've been intimately aware of the progress and that has gone forward. As we presented the item to the agenda, we had some comments that I think have been clarified and are corrected or amended accordingly, both with the MEDA board and hopefully with this council. For the reasons previously stated in our other meetings, I think this is the next step in moving us forward to a prosperous future as we build on our proud history. See what I did there?
Yeah, very good.
Thank you. This is for discussion and action. Council, questions at this time on this particular item? Yes, Councilmember Gussie.
I had a long conversation with Ioana, and I'm very satisfied with the answers that she gave you to the questions. But you had just mentioned right now, this has been 7 months in the works, and in the contract, it states that it started July 1st, 2019 through June 30, 2020. Is there a reason why we didn't bring it sooner?
Because it wasn't ready. There were a few items yet to be worked out, not on our end, but MEDA, they had to have a quorum, and we wanted their vote and approval before it came forward. That's probably an oversight that we didn't amend that date, but that was the original target date. We just missed it.
So they've been paid this contract that we're going to approve today
They have
since that
not.
day?
No, they haven't paid at anything, and they know they wouldn't get paid until this is approved, but the intent would be to move back in arrears back to that date.
Even though it states here that the first, I can't remember where I read it.
We had, under the old agreement, we paid them $125,000, which was approved in the budget by the council, and it's been the pattern for the last several years. That payment was made back, in basically July, when the new budget came forward. But that's working under the old MEDA. With the new one, we have the proposal, and the number in there includes the $125 already paid, but not the new money.
So the $435,000 includes $125 that's already been paid?
Right, which was approved by the budget that you approved previously.
Way back then, okay. All right, and going forward, So when we sign, let's say, what's the next one? July 1, 2020, we will have a contract approved before July 1st, 2020.
Yes, the META will actually have to present a budget request, which will be reviewed by staff initially, and then by the BFO committee, and then ultimately by the full council to approve both the scope of work and the budget being requested. So that will be an annual process.
Yeah, we're going to pay them in the rears, and the first report that they're to give to us will be in March, next
Yes,
next
there's
2 months.
2 public presentations they'll make a year. They will make a monthly presentation to me. Keep in mind, part of META is they deal with a lot of proprietary information. However, if we can meet in the executive session, if it meets the requirements, or we can meet one-on-one, two-on-two, to update you at any time on projects that they're pursuing. Once they run it through the pipeline and are ready to hand it over to us, then, of course, it's all open and transparent, but they are an independent company and business and will handle what we call the pipeline, generating the projects and get them to the point that they're ready to turn it over to the city for us to take it and you know, if there's any contracts to work out at that time, that's us, not them.
I guess what I'm having a hard time grasping is if I went to a job and I started tomorrow, I'm not going to get paid for all those months. We're holding them accountable as of today, correct?
Yes.
So what have they done to earn those funds up to date?
Well, I'm not sure I understand your question. When does it say the payments are? Is that what you're saying?
Well, it says here that the contract fee is $435,000 as of July 1st, 2019 through June 30, 2020.
Yeah, again, traditionally, we paid them the $125,000 every year on the first day of July, which is for their services going forward. This time, though, we're paying them quarterly, so we actually are protecting ourselves by paying quarterly and getting these reports monthly. In the past, we didn't get those reports, and we just paid them all up front. So, in essence, we're now breaking up 4 quarterly payments instead of 1 all at one time. That's in the fine print in there somewhere. Is that?
Yes, Vice Mayor Smith and then Councilmember Wood.
So I think City Manager Horst, what she's asking is the difference between the 435 and 125.
305.
That's, you're not going to back pay them all the way to this past July.
No, it's intended to start January 1st.
Thank you. That's what I wanted you to
So we're 3 weeks
say.
behind.
Yes.
My apologies for not understanding.
Hope
No,
that helps.
We're just 3 weeks behind, is all.
Okay.
Right.
Does that answer your questions? then
Yes,
completely?
that
Okay.
makes much more sense.
Okay.
Thank
Because
you.
we're looking
My
at
apologies.
$205,000 that we're paying them.
Right.
Okay, all right.
No, I was just going to say, it's just like our HUD contracts, you know, they may start at a certain period of time, but they won't release the funds until that period of time that they do. And then they pay at that point.
The answer to the question was
Yeah.
there.
Yeah,
Once I-
perfect.
Once the slow brain finally understood it, thank you.
You're welcome.
All right,
Be
thank you.
mad.
Any other questions, council, at this time? Yes, Councilman Manfredi.
Yeah, I met with a couple of the directors, board members. And I had some concerns, and, you know, I went through them, and I spoke with our city manager. I spoke to him about them. One of the concerns was reporting, where I didn't like the fact there was 2 reports a year, but, you know, I understand now that Rick will actually get reports on a monthly basis and bring them to us directly, which is important, because you need to know what's happening, especially when there's so much money on the line. The second concern I had was it's a perpetual agreement that's $435,000 a year for 5 years. It's a 5-year agreement. And then Rick made sure to explain, and we went over and we talked about it is a budget that we're going to look at each individual year. So they'll bring a budget to us and ask us, and we'll decide if that we're going to give them the money again.
Right.
So the agreement could die with funding going away if we needed it to. Also, you know, we can adjust the funding level, go up if we need to, if we need more from them, or go down and get rid of some of the services that they might be offering. So it's not an all or nothing also. So those were some concerns I had. I had a few other concerns, minor ones, but we've discussed them when we went through it. And sitting with the board members was great. So if anybody on the council has any questions, speak with the board members too, see what their direction is. And it's kind of cool is that there's a couple new board members on there also, where, you know, they have bright ideas for the future and they have great connections in the valley and beyond. So it's going to be a good couple years for us, I think, here in Maricopa.
And council, remember, we gave you a slight amendment that's before you, so
Yeah.
whoever makes the motion, if you include that amendment.
Absolutely. So, council, any other questions or concerns at this time? Seeing none, can I have a motion, please, and please include the amendment at this time?
So moved.
Would you
The
include the amendment?
amendment is the proposed amendment, Exhibit 8, under Personnel, eliminate item number 2. It is understood and agreed that BETA will retain the consulting services of IO, Inc., said services to be articulated and agreed to in a separate agreement.
Thank you, Councilmember Gussie. Is there a second?
Second.
And a second from Vice Mayor Smith. Is there any further discussion on this item? Seeing, yeah, there's
Sorry,
one.
just,
Yes.
I'm sorry, I apologize.
No, go ahead.
sir.
Councilmember Wade.
IO Inc. Can we get a little bit clarification on who that is? Yeah.
Yes, IO Inc. is Iwana's firm. The question was, why would we be approving who they hire as an independent contractor? Why was this one in the agreement when we don't talk about the other contracts or the advertisers, the marketing people, whatever? And it's really not our responsibility, it's theirs. We're just hiring them to do a service, and we shouldn't dictate who they hire or not hire at the end of the day, frankly, because we shouldn't take the responsibility of it. And so Iwana, in her role as consultant, is a decision for the META board to make, and they will be making that decision at the next board meeting. So it really was irrelevant to ours and frankly the separation. So she doesn't appear to be our employee. She's not.
Okay, thank you. Thank you.
Any other questions, council? Thank you, Councilmember. Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion carries. All right, well, that concludes our meeting for this evening. Thank you for being here with us. We will see you again on February 4th. And council, can I have a motion to adjourn, please?
So moved.
Motion, is there a second?
Second.
There's the second.
Was it good?
Thank you. All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. We'll see you in a few weeks.
No. It was a really good catch.